Welcome to Pensar Basketball. My name is Penn, I guess. My name's Rob. And today we're going to talk about how the Toronto Raptors got so close, but no cigar. That's 12 in a row. That's 12 in a row. The Toronto Raptors have lost 12 in a row. This team could potentially lose 5 straight to the Knicks this year and then maybe meet the New York Knicks in the playoffs and then lose a whole bunch more. There's something about this New York Knicks team that just does not match up well with the Toronto Raptors. And I think it has a lot to do with Jalen Brunson. It has a lot to do with half court offense differential. It has a ton to do with how the Knicks force Scotty Barnes to play. I think it has a ton to do with the Raptors' spacing issues. I think it has a lot to do with just the employment of matchups and adjustments in game. It's like, where do you want Darko to go? Right? Like the Knicks have a treasure trove of, let's call it, options, right? If Brandon Ingram's going, they can throw one of 2, 3 guys at him. None of them are going to stop him completely, but they can give him different looks. When Jalen Brunson gets going, there really aren't 3 looks. There are 3 looks. One of them is an okay look. The others are bad looks, and you're just going to get fried. The Raptors don't have a good matchup for Jalen Brunson or Karl-Anthony Towns. And, if you're thinking like, oh, Rob, you forget that Jakob Poeltl is back? Yeah, Jakob Poeltl might be one of the worst matchups for Karl-Anthony Towns because unlike Jakob Poeltl, Karl-Anthony Towns is a very mobile big who can take him off the dribble, and he can stretch him out to about 30 feet. And Karl-Anthony Towns makes $60 million for a reason because he is that talented. And the Knicks are that talented. They're really good. Now, shout outs. I want to give a shout out. I don't know if they end up watching this. It would be really bizarre if they end up watching this, but I want to give a shout out to Max and Jen for making my weekend super great. They were like one of the best parts of my weekend, and they're both Knicks fans. They're both, they were both selected to Pendance. They came over here to Toronto. They left yesterday. They were like, damn, wish we knew the Raptors were playing the Knicks. They're probably the only people in the world right now that I actually give a shit about that are smiling right now. But if you're a Raptor fan, you're thinking, Rob, are we doomed to lose to all great teams for all time? And I'd like to kind of harken back to something that Darko Rajakovic said a couple of years ago, which is first you learn how to practice, then you learn how to play, then you learn how to win. And winning does come down to execution in the last 3 minutes. And quite frankly, the Raptors were, I think it was 95-93. And then the Knicks proceeded to go on a 16-2 run to blow this game wide open towards the end. And you can be happy that a team that has been beating the doors off the entire league once again was in a dogfight with the Raptors in crunch time. That's the same story we were telling ourselves against the Spurs. The Spurs have been beating the brakes off of everybody. They beat every single team by over 9, but the Raptors were in a one-possession game. And then Brandon Ingram missed the corner 3. Okay, so that's progress. You go to the Knicks. Well, the Knicks are actually the team that just beat the Spurs. They ended their streak. Okay. And so you're in a dogfight with them. But at some point, the participation trophy, medal culture, whatever, becomes a little bit exhausting, tiresome, and you just want your team to produce results and you want them to do it on your time. You want them to do it while you're still alive and you have time to enjoy it. And you start to wonder, well, I don't really have anyone to blame tonight, do I? I mean, sure, you could blame Jamison Battle's, very, very short stint. You can blame the defense on some level because the Raptors defense was allowing the Knicks to get into the paint all night long. You could blame in-game adjustments. You can blame rotations. You can say Sandro Mamukelashvili hasn't quite looked like himself. You can say Scotty Barnes, that turnover kind of cues like the missed shot. Also, like there's momentum breaking plays from Scotty Barnes where he doesn't come up like a franchise player should. And, you could certainly say maybe putting the ball in Brandon Ingram's hands as often as the Raptors do late in games, and the numbers would tell you he's the second least productive, second least efficient clutch scorer in the NBA among high volume shot takers. There's a lot to settle. Now, I would be very frustrated with the Toronto Raptors. I would be. You'll notice from my tone that I'm not that frustrated, and I'll tell you why I'm not frustrated. We knew this. We knew this. Everybody knew this, including the Toronto Raptors. The Raptors knew this. When we heard Off-season rumors that the Toronto Raptors desperately want to get Derek White, but the Celtics are asking for too much. I can breathe a sigh of relief because if that is true, then that means this team understands the plan. They just couldn't execute the plan because it takes two to tango. You can't force someone to trade you their player if they don't want to trade him. And obviously, Derek White's a very good player. But frankly, Derek White is exactly the difference between winning and losing these games. That's the difference. He is the type of player that you could put on Jalen Brunson. Putting him on Jalen Brunson, or frankly, Mikal Bridges, or frankly, OG Anunoby, because he is that switchable, or even potentially in a cross match, being able to guard the rim. Derek White swapping in for one of your backcourt players is the difference between losing and winning these games. Now, it's a big difference. He's a big upgrade on those guys, but it's not like I'm saying you need Victor Wembanyama and Nikola Jokic to compete. I'm saying you need that level of player. And those levels of players do exist. They do exist. They do come up for trade. Because what would happen if you had a Derek White is Scotty Barnes suddenly becomes an instantly viable rim protector. He's not drawn 14 to 26 feet away from the basket at all times. He has a much easier time probably sitting on an OG and an OB or potentially whoever the hell is playing their center or even matching up with Karl-Anthony Towns. I don't think Scotty has a chance in hell guarding Karl-Anthony Towns either because I think Cat is like 270 pounds and just a big dude. But you look at that roster and you say, you swap out RJ Barrett for Derek White and you're sitting pretty. You're a little bit smaller in the backcourt. Yeah, but you're way more switchable. And suddenly your entire defensive scheme makes sense. But then your offense also makes sense now because there aren't two non-shooters that you can cheat off of every single time Scotty Barnes goes for a drive. Look, we all know this. The formula is clear. With big wing drivers with slow twitch bursts, you need wide angles. It just has to be this way. Long strides are an advantage unless you don't have space, in which case it's a disadvantage. And I think that a player like Scotty Barnes desperately needs shooting around him. The problem is your shooters can't shoot right now. Jacoby Walter looked pretty bad today. Grady Dick got a DMP-CD, I believe. I don't think he got in the game. Jamison Battle had a very short stint. Couldn't get into the game. Mamu has cooled off because teams have sort of figured him out. So you're getting this sort of cascading issue of, do we tank our offense or tank our defense? And so what the Raptors do is by default, they just play their starters. But there are three non-shooters that teams can double off of on their starting lineup. So it makes everybody less effective. I feel like I'm playing Groundhog Day right now because I feel like I'm saying the same thing every single post-game live. Maybe we should talk about something else. Maybe we should talk about the weather. Or maybe we should talk about movies. Or maybe we should talk about, how the Knicks are actually pretty damn good and they're going to be really hard out. But the point here is basketball is a 5-on-5 sport. And in every single situation of a 5-on-5 sport, there's always going to be the sort of relationship between those five players producing the results on the court. Defense, offense included. We want to individualize certain things. We want to come up here and say, this guy didn't play hard. That guy didn't defend. That guy didn't shoot well. That guy's a bum. But the reality is the Raptors do not have five players who make sense on the basketball court at all. The closest thing they have to a lineup that actually makes sense on the basketball court, and this is a very weird lineup, and it's not optimal by any means. Don't get me wrong. It's not a championship lineup. But I'm saying from a basketball perspective of skill distribution, this is a lineup that kind of low-key makes sense. Jamal Shead, Emmanuel Quickley, CMB, Scotty Barnes, Brandon Ingram. Like, this is a lineup that gives you a lot of versatility, a sufficient amount of defense. It avoids having a complete non-defender on the court. It does, once again, compound the fact that you have three non-shooters in CMB, Scotty, and Jamal Shead on the court. But for whatever reason, the quickness and twitch of these guys, it somehow just works. Now, if you could replace Jamal Shead with Peyton Pritchard, now this is a lineup that makes sense on the basketball court. But again, not as a championship contender, just like as a team that wouldn't get completely baked in the playoffs. So when you look at like what's going on, okay, let's see here. User, whatever. I'm sorry. I don't believe Knicks will survive shutting down Brunson. They don't have enough shot making. I don't think they need to be shutting them down. Anyways, let's take a look at what happened in this game, man. Also, shout outs to you guys. How are you guys? How did you enjoy the Wizards game? I am now back. I am still very exhausted. I will give you a bit of a Pendance wrap up later in this episode. We will talk about this game. We will not bother this game with, we will not bother this post game with a lot of Pendance talk, but it is obviously everything that I've thought about for like the last 3 weeks and everything that I'm currently still talking about. And there is a giant controversy that I must address because it is a mega thing that is just taking over my entire day today. And I want to talk about it because I think that it's very interesting, but it was a very fulfilling weekend. Met a lot of really great people, got to see a lot of great people again. It was incredible. Karen Hall was there. Karen Hall was there. Vince, the music guy, was there. See, I'm not talking about the Raptors anymore. I'm suddenly smiling. Karen Hall was there. Vince was there. Gregory was there. Like, there's a lot of people that came out. I'm so sorry. There's actually, I am actually forgetting his name right now, and I'm so sorry because I've been forgetting everybody's name this weekend. There was an individual, and I'm so sorry that I'm forgetting your name. Incredible, incredible dancers. Them and their partner got on our red carpet and then did this incredible dance. I posted it to Pensar Basketball Instagram. If you saw it, I was just like, man, I love our community. I love how eclectic and interesting, artistic, creative our community is. So thank you guys. If you showed up to Pendance, I know there were many, many, many more of you. I know some of you came up to me. I know some of you didn't. If you did this, please know it meant the world to me. I was so sleep deprived by Sunday, I wasn't even forming coherent sentences. But anyways, I digress. I will give you a full sort of Pendance recap and the controversy that is happening right now a little bit later in this episode. But Brandon Ingram's shot making, man, that was the story of this game, wasn't it? 31 points. He got cooking very early, hit some threes early in the game, back-to-back threes, I think, in the first quarter. And that was a huge sign for the Raptors, staying in this game. RJ Barrett, incredibly efficient, 9 for 13 today, got into the paint quite a few times, didn't get to the line a lot, but yeah, like I generally thought that he played assertively on offense. Of course, with the offense going through Ingram and Barrett, the offense did not go through Scotty Barnes. And I think this might actually come down to something that one of our Pensar Basketball members, Allison, shout out to Allison, said to me. She said, Rob, I was at the game. I think something's wrong with Scotty Barnes. I think something is wrong with Scotty. What they're not showing on the camera, he is getting treatment between every single stint. He is wincing in pain. He doesn't look happy. And I suspect that might actually be true. The Raptors are notorious for hiding injuries. And quite frankly, whatever is going on with Scotty Barnes right now, he hasn't looked right in weeks. Okay. He's moving differently. For the most part, he's been a lot less assertive and ignited in the offense, a lot less involved in the offense. And genuinely, I just feel that Scotty is fighting uphill defensively and offensively. I just think that the shot hasn't felt right in a few. Hello. Hey, Allison, how are you? So, yeah, so there's a lot to talk about there. But the Raptors do not get a dominant performance offensively, at least from Jakob Poeltl, who got hunted relentlessly defensively, at least. And yes, of course, his size and outlet, the ability to throw the ball to a 7-footer is valuable. I'm not complaining that Jakob Poeltl is back, but the Raptors are notably slower with him. They are notably worse on defense with him as opposed to CMB. And CMB is a rookie. So this is something that the Raptors are going to have to solve long term. And if rumors are to be believed, once again, that the Raptors were trying to offload Jakob Poeltl, this is not something I'm saying that the Raptors are not aware of. The Raptors are completely aware of this. They know that they've probably made a mistake long term pairing Scotty Barnes with someone like Jakob Poeltl, who is just a not so great synergistic fit. So you're probably going to have a $27 million player for the next couple of years coming off your bench unless someone eats that contract. And maybe you're going to find a center somewhere else. Maybe that center is CMB. I don't think so. Matrap beats saying McCain, low-key, a better point guard than Quickly. I think Quickly's been pretty decent lately. So I'm really not going to join I'm not going to rejoin the Emmanuel Quickly bash sessions. Like, I think he's doing about as well as he possibly could. I don't know what your expectations are of him, right? But like, he's shooting efficiently. He's getting off the ball as much as he can. He's playing off the ball. He's playing off of cuts. He's playing off of movement. I don't think he's over dribbling or over penetrating or over hoarding possessions. I think he's competing defensively. He's not a lockdown defender. If Emmanuel quickly could, size up with Jalen Brunson. I mean, Jalen Brunson is just so physical. Like, he really requires like a very specific type of defender to even keep him off his pivot a little bit. He's one of the best players in the league offensively. So, it's not a shameful thing to be able to say we don't have an answer for Jalen Brunson. We don't. Okay. The Raptors managed to get 8 points off the bench on a combined 2 for 10 shooting from Jamal Shed and Sandro Mamukellis. Really, they go 0 for 3 combined from 3. Jacoby Walter goes 0 for 3 from 3. Elijah Martin goes in his garbage time minutes. I don't even count the garbage time minutes. The Raptors go 0 for off the bench. Apart from Emmanuel Quickly and Brandon Ingram hitting threes, which is genuinely insane. Quickly goes 3 for 10. Like, this is a problem. You know what I mean? Like, 3 for 10. I mean, I'm glad he took 10, but shit, 4 for 14, 3 for 10, not great. And Brandon Ingram going 3 for 5, that's a step in the right direction, but man, get that usage up. He took 3 of those in the first quarter. So, look, I think this team goes tunnel vision a little bit too much with RJ and BI. I don't think that those two are good enough to drive offense that's supposed to beat really good teams. You do have an upper limit. You are pretty much a 500 team. On the Knicks side, they get a dominant performance from, I don't want to say a dominant performance from OG Anunoby, but it was a very, very good performance from OG Anunoby. He ends up shooting 5 for 6 for 15 points, but he played really well. And Karl-Anthony Towns and Jalen Brunson just took over this game in key stretches and key moments when their team needed it the most. Off the bench, Landry Shamet provides a very, very good boost. And Mohamed Diawara, who I believe he was a second round pick this year, and he ends up with 8 points. He's another 7-footer off the bench. You get Tyler Kolek getting almost DMP CDs, and I low-key think from the best I've seen of Tyler Kolek, he'd probably be a rotation player on the Toronto Raptors. Jordan Clarkson DMP CD. Was he injured or something? Because Jordan Clarkson would low-key get minutes off the Raptors bench too. There are levels to depth and accumulation of talent and age of talent and average age of rosters. These things matter stupidly, like a lot, right? You get Mitchell Robinson coming off the bench. The Knicks just have this like incredible 5-out spacing with Cat at the 5, Josh Hart being the only kind of non-shooter, Mikal Bridges being a second shooter you can sort of cheat off of. But you can't cheat off of Jalen Brunson, Karl-Anthony Towns, or OG Anunoby. And they are just able, Clarkson sucks, sure. But like, he's still like a reasonably talented shot creator off the bench. He might be like the second or third best shot creator on the Raptors if he was on this team, right? When is Trace going to get some burn? That's a good question, man. You brought him over, you paid a second round pick and whatever else you paid for him. You got 1 minute in garbage time tonight. He was very promising in his debut. There are limitations, of course. We cited them when the Raptors traded for him, but he's still a reasonably efficient player. He still gives you a chance. He still gives you second chance points. He still cuts hard. He's still a really good rim protector, which is not something I can say about any other player on this team other than Scotty Barnes. I do think the Raptors need to try to go away from this guard bullshit and just try to go big. But again, when you're down the stretch and you're trying to go to Scotty Barnes, that is out of necessity. Scotty initiating above the break is out of necessity. And I said it before, and I'll say it again. This roster is not constructed at all for Scotty to do that shit. It's not constructed for Scotty to be the engine. And I'm not even arguing that Scotty is an ideal or optimal engine at this point in his career, at this point in his skill set development. Handle is still too high. Shot is still a little wonky. But let's just be honest. We have seen stretches throughout this year where he's averaged 23, 24, 25 points per game. We've seen stretches where he has taken over games completely. I'll remind you, the Raptors went 4-0 in the group stage, whooping teams before the NBA Cup, whooping them. So what is going wrong with the Raptors? Since that 9-game win streak, this team has not looked the same. So what went wrong? What's going wrong? A couple things. There's a few things that have gone wrong. So let's try to break it down. Number one, the thing that has gone wrong, I think the complete evaporation of RJ Barrett's downhill ability is really bad. He just doesn't look the same. He had a reasonably good game tonight, but I'm really hoping that by the time the playoffs roll around that there's going to be some solution offered on that front, but it hasn't looked great. Number two, I do think Scotty Barnes is very injured right now. I think right now the Raptors have 3 players in their starting lineup who are dealing with either recovery from injury or pending injury or are about to get injured or are injured but are still playing. I think Scotty is injured, but he's still playing. And I think Jakob Poeltl and RJ Barrett are still slowly recovering back from injuries. And I don't think those 3 have looked completely like themselves. Like the earliest version of, like in the earliest part of the year, before, like right around the middle stretch when the Raptors were really good, Jakob Poeltl was pretty good. RJ Barrett was really good. And those 2 being really good creates the space for Scotty, BI, and IQ to be really good. They are effectively the 4th and 5th starters. The guy with the fan on the ceiling may not agree with this, but RJ Barrett is absolutely your 4th starter here. Jakob Poeltl is absolutely your 5th starter here. So when you consider that, your complementary pieces are falling by the wayside. And what about your depth? You walk into this season thinking Sandro Mamukelashvili, probably be a very long-term solution for the Raptors as a backup big. We're thinking 15 million, 14 million. How can we afford him? He hasn't played like a $15 million player lately. He's probably playing a little bit more like an $8 to $6 million player. And I think that's partially because teams sort of figured you out. Teams have sort of figured out his place in this Raptors offense. They hadn't seen it before. They've seen it now for 50 plus games. It takes about 50 plus games for a team to completely figure out what you can do with that. So I think that is part of it. I think also the complete absence of a wing emerging among your young crop as a de facto contributor. And by de facto, I do mean like close to, but maybe not quite on the level of a Cason Wallace or an AJ Mitchell. Like a guy that you can just bank on to give you something predictably, 3-point shooting, defense, whatever. Whatever that thing is, that role player, wing player, that Keon Ellis type just ain't on this team right now. And Nickeil Alexander-Walker, I'm just naming some names that I think are that type of player, right? That's not on this team right now. Jacoby is a little bit inconsistent. Jameson Battle and Grady Dick are extremely, extremely compromised defensively. So they end up giving back a lot of what they give to you offensively in terms of spacing. Are they better at spacing than RJ Barrett and Scotty Barnes? For sure. But they give up so much that it almost makes it pointless to play them. And then I think the other thing that really just occurred to me, the other day when I was watching this team, I was trying to like tune into the Wizards game in the middle of Pendance, was this team was ahead of everyone, but now everyone has kind of caught up. This is a team that notoriously and quite on the record publicly admitted that they were doing mini camps in Austin, mini camps in Spain. They were huddling together, meeting up all summer. They wanted to hit the ground running. Now, this is something the Raptors have done quite a few times. There was that year where the whole thing fell apart. The Rico runs where everybody was super in shape. Paul George was saying, man, if y'all aren't good this year, that's going to be really surprising to me. Well, they weren't good that year, and Paul George, be surprised. But I thought it kind of interesting that this team came out to a pretty good start. Apart from that, I think like 1-4, 1-3 start, like they just rolled through the East. The schedule was a little bit light. And I very vividly remember during that time thinking, what happens when other teams catch up to our conditioning and to our connectivity? Because the talent issues are still here. And you'll remember, and again, this is not victory lapping, this is just recapping. When we walked into this season, I was like, the Raptors could be a 50-plus win team. They have this, they have that. This is why they're going to do it. And when they started to clip that and play on a 56-win pace, I adjusted my expectation down which seems counterintuitive and really weird, but I had seen enough to say the talent just did not exist on this team. So, what do you do as a team that doesn't have enough talent to compete, but has too much talent to just be a complete lottery team and go tank for AJ DeBonsa? Well, I think what you do is you try to build leverage for your assets and you try to develop your young talent. And these are all really boring answers. But ultimately, what you have to do is you have to align your pieces until there is an opportunity to do something about it. And at which point, the pieces you have aligned, the condition they are in, that will become very important. I think of it a little bit like, I don't know, putting away money for a market crash. You know what I mean? To those of you sharks out there that are trying to time the next housing crisis in the United States or in Canada, what are you doing? You're putting things away into 10-year bonds. You're like, no, no, you're keeping shit liquid, relatively speaking. You're buying precious metals. You're diversifying a little bit. You're buying blue chippers. You're trying to pick up on the dips, and you're just putting it all together, hoping one day, the flood will come and you will have an umbrella. That's what you're hoping. And I think that's what the Raptors are hoping. There's no reason. I mean, good for you. Smart guy right here. Absolutely. You should. But what I'm saying is this is what the Raptors need to do right now. This is a holding pattern. And holding isn't fun. You know what's fun? You know what's really fun for people? At least people with diminished capacity for patience. Let me do something reckless. Let me do something reckless. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go withdraw $20,000 from my bank account. All right. All right. I'm gonna take $20,000. I'm gonna go to the poker table at Vegas and I'm gonna turn it into $80,000. Then I'm gonna take the $80,000. I'm gonna turn it into $1,000,000. That doesn't work. That usually doesn't work. You usually go broke when that happens. And then you can't pay, and then you over leverage, and then they break your ribs in the back room. That's usually what happens. But that's fun. If I made a movie about somebody holding and waiting for for a short position to pay off and for a market collapse so that they can scoop in on decently priced assets, pulling back on price versus a movie about a guy, snorting cocaine off a hooker's tits as, I'm so sorry if there are any kids, but you're up past your bedtime. This is really not my problem. I feel like the second story is a lot more exciting. And I think that people like to sensationalize things. People like to, say like, oh, the sky is falling. The sky is falling. Oh my God, we lost to the Knicks. The sky is falling. No, the sky is not falling. You're supposed to lose to the Knicks. They're a better team. If you thought you were a better team than the Knicks, I don't think you're a better team than the Knicks. I think the Knicks are a better team. I think I said that to Jen and Max this weekend too. I think the Knicks are a better team. And I don't like them because I don't like Karl-Anthony Towns, but they are a better team. And they're on a different timeline. Their players are older. You don't have a 30-year-old max player. You don't have a 28-year-old max player. You almost have a 28-year-old max player in Brandon Ingram. But you don't have like high lottery talent. Like that's super in their prime. You don't have that yet. And yes, a lot of this frustration is going to come back to Scotty Barnes for a lot of people tonight. You're in this game. This is a game you don't shoot well. You shoot 29% from the field. You shoot 45% from the field. They don't shoot great from three, 34%, 57%. I don't think the Knicks played their best game at all. At all. I've watched this Knicks team play over their run. I watched them, at least partially watched what they did to the Spurs in order to get ready for today's panel episode. I don't think this was the best of the Knicks. I don't think the Knicks came into tonight being like, this is the game. This is the game for all the marbles. This is the game that we will announce our presence to the NBA. No, that didn't happen tonight. The Knicks kind of came in, they played it close, and then it was like game over. Do you ever play like your bigger brother or bigger sister and they're just way better than you and it's like 3-3 and it's up to 7 and then they get a call to say like this dude that they like or this girl that they like is going to be at this party nearby and they put 4 on you in about 12 seconds. Do you ever have that happen to you? Does anyone here have a vivid memory of something like that happening to them? I had that happen to me once. I do remember that very clearly. That's what this felt like. Honestly, that's what this feels like. This feels like the Knicks were just playing with their food. And then it came down to 93, 95. And the Knicks were like, all right, we get to play for 3 minutes and we just blow this game wide open. It's demoralizing for sure. I don't think you have all your ducks. I don't think your ducks are healthy. But if you're going to look at this game and you're going to take a takeaway from this, I don't necessarily even think you can be too happy about being in this game. You played better than them. You just missed more shots. Through 45 minutes, can you agree with me that the Raptors played a better game than the Knicks? Can you agree with that? Because I could say the same thing about the Spurs game, by the way. Right? I could say that about the Spurs game as well. I could say about the Pistons game as well. There were stretches of that game where I think the Raptors played better. But inevitably it collapses. People have short-term amnesia about how good this team was or how good Scotty was early parts of the season, how we were talking about a definitive all-NBA lock, how we were talking about, third or second place defensive player of the year votes, right? We're thinking about that. But right now, he doesn't look like that player. He looks like a very injured player who's playing through a lot of pain, who's managing that injury, the thigh bruise. I think that was supposed to be potentially going to keep him out this game. I do appreciate the fact that Scotty continues to play through these, but at some point, if playoff success is at all relevant to this team, if going into the first round and not just being happy to be there, but actually wanting to have a puncher's chance of advancing, you need Scotty, RJ, and Jakob healthy. And everything from this point in the season to the end of the season has to be to get those guys right. Everything. Because you don't have enough talent for those guys to not be operating at close to 100%. The same thing, by the way, for CMB's thumb. Like, if you can go down the list of this team, the number of players that you absolutely need to be healthy going into the playoffs, that you have a puncher's chance. And I'm going to say this. If you face Detroit in the first round because you end up dropping into the play-in, you don't even have a puncher's chance because they're just that much bigger than you and they're that much stronger than you and they pose that many issues for you. So the Raptors are going to have to pray that a few things happen, that they're going to be healthier than the team that they faced in the playoffs and that they have better shooting luck than the team in the playoffs. And guess what? For a 4-game stretch, a team can shoot well. Right? Jay Manowski saying Scotty actually playing hurt. Yeah, so this is something that Allison shared with me at Pendance. Puma, sorry, basketball. Scotty could have done more, honestly. Okay, so you know what's funny? I actually found a picture of myself. Puma, sorry, basketball, you have been banned. Sorry. I'm a bit of a dictator when it comes to banning people who are trolling, clearly. However, I found a picture of myself in 2020 and I'm also wearing a Puma hat, but not this Puma hat, like a completely different Puma hat. And I completely forgot about that Puma hat. I'm like, yo, what the hell is it up with me and Puma hats? Why do I keep wearing Puma hats? I'm not sponsored by Puma. Why the fuck do I keep wearing Puma hats? It was like a different one. It had the symbol. It was a black on black symbol here. I was like, what? How are our chances against Cleveland right now? I don't know, somewhere above 1%. Yeah, somewhere above 1%. Yeah. Vegan Graph saying some people don't watch half the game, they only watch offense. That is true. That is actually very true. I have watched people watch basketball and it's very humorous to me. They watch one team try to score the ball, then they watch another team try to score the ball, and if they score the ball, the defense sucks, And if they don't score the ball, the defense is awesome. How many times you're late to a corner shooter that is a deadly corner shooter and he misses? People are like, oh, our defense. No, not your defense. That's fluke. That's luck. Slipping to seventh and eighth wouldn't be the worst thing. I actually don't think it would be the worst thing for the Raptors. Again, alleviate the pressure of having to defend something that you haven't earned. The Toronto Raptors, I want to say, are fool's gold. They are a relatively decent team. They are better than advertised. They are exceeding expectations. That should be factored in, but they are not designed to be going toe to toe with really elite half court offenses. That's just not in close game settings. They're not designed to do that. I don't think that they're designed to do that. I don't think they're good enough to do that yet. And I think barring some miraculous, late season resurgence from Scotty Barnes, or maybe just like a click that just goes off for one of Grady or Jacoby, I just think you're missing a piece or two. Bro, the ads are more often today. They shouldn't be. So StreamYard offers a are they okay, can y'all help me understand? Are the ads in the chat or are the ads on the videos? Teacher Mike, good evening, y'all. Yo, Teacher Mike, guess what I'm wearing? That is a shirt designed by Teacher Mike. Be great for. It's a Scotty Barnes shirt. Teacher Mike is happy. That's great, man. That's great. Holy shit. Quad contusion takes a week to heal. Should have just rested him. Absolutely. On the video. Okay, yeah. So I don't understand why that is because StreamYard asks me ads interrupt live stream repeatedly, long ads. Okay, well that is bullshit. Okay, so I don't know if StreamYard or YouTube have changed something, but I'll go back to what I used to do before because this is the second time people this is the second time that people have complained about this. And people complained 2 streams ago as well. So basically, StreamYard has a built-in feature. StreamYard is this studio app that I use where it says turn ads on, and it gives you 3 options, which is less frequent, moderate, and aggressive. And I put moderate last time, and now I have put less frequent because people complain about moderate. But I think I'm just going to go back to what I used to do, which is just go to YouTube Studio and just turn monetization on and just let them decide how often they're going to run ads. Because maybe StreamYard is getting, I don't know, maybe StreamYard is deciding more ads on the streams. I don't understand. Yeah, but I'm very sorry about that. That was not my intention. Okay. You're funny. Yeah, you are the least of my problems today, dude. And some time ago, you helped me with some nice advice towards some breakup shit I've been going through, and I've been working it out. I appreciate you," said Liam. Man, I'm very happy to hear that. That's good. I'm glad. Okay. So we're about 40 minutes into the stream. I want to devote the last 10 minutes to just talk about how my weekend went, just on a personal tip, just to talk about, life in general and how things have gone. Obviously, we ran the Pendance Film Festival this past weekend. A lot of you showed up. That was very, very nice. And I just want to say, like, from the bottom of my heart, the people who showed up, like, you made the weekend very, very successful for me personally. There's so many people who came to me and said, this is this great community. I wish I could share with you the message our gala DJ left us. It was so incredible. He said, and he met up with me and I was like, I had to pay him. And he was just like, man, he's like, I've never met so many nice people all together at once in my life. Like this is so incredible. This community you've built. They're conscientious. They're not rude. They don't treat me like a monkey. And I was just like, man, that's great. It's good to hear. Our sponsors were happy. For the most part, our filmmakers were happy. Our audience was happy. So I was happy. I mean, I was exhausted. I was dead exhausted. If you're somebody who watched one of my introductions on stage, oh my God. I fucked up so badly so many times. Dude, I blanked. I froze. I forgot to introduce things. I totally forgot to tell people to turn off their phones 9 times in a row. I forgot to tell people to exit through the back. I forgot everything. Everything possible that I could possibly forget, I forgot. You know what I mean? And I just don't understand it. Like I kept forgetting, right? Yeah, for sure. It can do that. And truth be told, I oh man, the films are awesome for the most part. The films were incredible. People just kept commenting about them. I loved every after party. Some of you attended the after parties, Greg on Saturday, Karen on Friday. That was really cool to see Pensar basketball people there. It was really dope. Vince was in our portrait studio. He got like a couple of dope snaps with him and his wife. That was really cool. I love when my worlds collide. You know, in Seinfeld, when George Costanza's like, the worlds are colliding. I hate this. Well, I don't hate that my worlds are colliding. These are two things that I love very much. And I'm so happy that they collided. Um, but then on Sunday, something happened that, quite frankly, I didn't realize what a big deal it was. And then it became a really big deal. And over the last day or so, it has just eaten away at me a lot. And it was really this. It was this. And it was a unilateral decision. It does not reflect Pendance at all. It does not reflect the sensibilities or attitudes or decision making of Pendance other than me. This was a unilateral decision. I suspected it was AI generated, but I said, you know what? Out of competition, I usually have way more leeway in terms of what we're able to screen out of competition, which means out of competition for people who are not film festival people. It means not eligible for any awards. And I was just like, you know what? I'm going to screen this. First of all, hold on. Let me just be fair to the whole weekend here. Da, 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 da. Okay, so first of all, just a little bit of the weekend that was just lovely people interacting in creative spaces. This is my jam, man. Like, this is my jam. Like, this is all I've ever wanted, you know, premieres, good people, great conversations, funny Q&As, funny, so funny, so many live, lovely people. And, we worked really hard for this. You have no idea how hard we worked for this. This was one of the most exhausting penances, and it wasn't like one of the biggest. It was probably like the sixth biggest one we've ever done. And it was all to set us up so that we would have an emotional, capacity to start preparing the next one right away. And right now, I'm just feeling a little bit zapped. And I'm gonna be honest, like I'm always honest about this stuff. I'm feeling a little bit zapped. And it's because something happened that just it didn't sit right with me. I didn't love it. And it ironically involved this film right here. And it was a Friday thing. And to be completely transparent, we had selected a film to be our final closing feature. And then in the 11th hour before our selections were to go public, it got pulled by the distributor. So they got Canadian distribution and they were no longer negotiating with festivals. They had to pull all their dates. And because we hadn't signed the contract, we lost the film. Note to self, write the contract next year because it was a fucking amazing film. Then we scrambled to find another feature. And this feature had been kind of just sitting on the shelf for like 5-6 months. And we had really liked it in the early process. So unfortunately, this is the thing about film festivals. You have to negotiate with films. And we're like, you know what? We can totally screen this film as our closing night film. It'll be really cool. And then we lost that too. And it was like, shit. Now we are 10, 11 days away from the film festival. So we reached out to the distributor that was handling Fantasy Life for us. And we asked for this other film, Son of Sarah Volume 1, which we had seen at Blood in the Snow. And it's a horror film. It's pretty gory. It's got some creative juices to it. It's made by a lot of people that we really respect. Toronto artists, Canadian artists. And we're like, man, that's cool. Like, our festival was heavily Canadian this year. We were trying to celebrate Canadian film. There was a stat that just kind of popped up at me a few weeks ago, which is like less than 2% of films that Canadians watched this year at cinemas were Canadian. And I was like, man, we don't have a single Canadian feature. Let's change that. Let's select this film. It'll be a closing night film. I didn't expect anyone to really care too much about it. It had already played in Toronto like 5 months ago, like 3 months ago. I didn't expect our audience to be crazy about it. It's a genre film. We're not necessarily a genre festival. We do occasionally like do well with horror films, but like they don't pack up. Our comedy films pack up. All our comedy films pack up, which kind of gives you an idea of what our audience is like. But like the art house, stuff and the sports documentaries and the horror films, they don't usually they require extra push. And we didn't see a need for an extra push because we had a gala at 8 o'clock. And then we're like, okay, so some people who are not going to attend the gala are going to be able to watch a really cool indie horror film. And the other people, a lot of our pass holders, we had like close to 70, 80, 90 pass holders this year. They're going to they're going to come to the gala and it's going to be perfectly fine. We're going to do these two events and we're going to split our team up and we're going to have this great gala. And then we found out 5 days before the screening that the filmmaker was coming. Not only were they coming, they were bringing this actress, Chloe with them. And Chloe is like, I think, going to blow up as one of the biggest actresses very soon. She's stupidly talented and really good. And I was just like, oh, okay, like this is amazing. It's great that, the director is coming and the actor is coming, but also we have sold like less than 10% of the tickets so far because we selected it late. We announced it late. We put up the tickets late. We didn't expect to sell this one out. We programmed a gala right next to it. If we wanted, who sells a horror film at 5 o'clock? Like really? Right. So my view on this was we didn't expect a lot of people to see the screening. But last year we had done a conference on artificial intelligence, and it was not our choice to do this. We had partnered with Connect Film, which is a really cool foundation in Toronto, run by my friend Anya. And she believes that we should confront this AI thing head on, that we should talk about it, that we shouldn't run away from the big AI monster. And I perfectly agree with that. I don't think that running away from AI or ignoring AI's existence is going to make NVIDIA and ChatGPT go away. I think that these companies are here to stay. It's probably better to understand how to ethically use it without losing your mind, and maybe just addressing things makes it better. And so we had this film that was also supposed to screen, and it was a Canadian short, and it pulled out. It also pulled out, and they actually broke the terms and conditions by pulling out, but we let them because I'm not going to force someone to screen. Our terms and conditions are you have a certain date that you can drop out by, and we could have forced them to continue. We could have forced them to screen. We didn't. We didn't force them to screen. Instead, we selected another film in their place as a special selection, and that was a film that we strongly suspected had used AI generated images. These AI generated images were freaky to watch. I felt very unsettled after I watched that film. The film is called Tunnel, and it is the subject of this entire post right here. And as you can see, there's a lot of people that are very fucking angry that we elected to screen a film that was partially AI gen. Now, I understand the frustrations. I definitely do, believe me. And I addressed all of them here. But curatorially, I do believe that we probably had an obligation to tell people that they were going to watch something that had used AI generation in terms of images, because it's a very triggering subject for a lot of people. It's a triggering subject for Toronto artists like myself who maybe feel that the work that we have spent decades cultivating, the work that we have spent, honing our craft in is about to just get shifted over to an algorithm or a computer. And that's scary. If you're a prosthetics person or someone who is, a special effects artist or a makeup artist or, even a cinematographer or an editor or a colorist or any one of these jobs within the creative field, right? You could very easily make a case that AI could be coming for your job. And I understand that that's the fear that sells. So people sell it. People want to sell fear. And I don't like to lean into fear by running away from it. I actually confront fear head on. Things that terrify me, include alligators. Sharks. When I was younger, sharks terrified me. You know how I dealt with it? I went into water with sharks. I eventually ended up touching sharks. I wanted to swim with sharks. You know how I dealt with my fear of alligators? I touched alligators. I believe you should touch the things that you fear. I think you should confront the things that you fear to make your life better. I don't think that you should run away from the things that you're afraid of. And I watched that film, Tunnel, and it gave me goosebumps. It was chilling. I don't watch AI generated content. I don't support it. I don't like it. I don't make it. I don't participate in it. I think AI is terrible for your brain, terrible for the environment, terrible for artists. It's horrible. But I watched it, and parts of it felt so human, but not like good human, like where there's a soul to it. It felt empty, like there was a void in it, and it felt creepy. And it really left me feeling kind of unsettled and disgusting, right? What's the difference between AI and CGI films like Avatar? That's a really great question. So, computer generated images like CGI, that is where CGI artists will independently go in and adjust and map and, create images. AI generation is where you can type in a whole bunch of words and say, okay, create, I don't know, a World War II background or something, and it just creates it. The problem with AI generation in general is that, it's effectively stealing without consequence. How are these images being generated? How is that cup or the shark or whatever? It's piecing together bits and pieces of other people's work in a way that is legally okay, but morally very, very disgusting. And exactly, I agree. Shirt and Forbes, I completely agree. So the point of programming this film was because, again, out of competition, was because it evoked such a strong, visceral, disgusting, hollow reaction. I thought about it the next day. I thought about it the next day. I thought about that soldier riding the horse. I thought about those empty things. And I was like, I can't believe those were all computer generated. But also, I definitely can because they were completely void of any texture, any meaningful texture. It was fake texture, it was fake everything. And look, I spent the entire weekend at Pendance getting on stage and talking about the means and importance of human to human connection. I spent all weekend talking about how important it was for people to huddle in a room together, for people to have conversations, for people to get away from algorithms, get away from streaming services, get away from their fucking think boxes and their echo chambers, and actually have real discussions and real dialogues. How do we run away from the conversation of AI? And so, again, as a programmer, I have a rule. Personally, I have a rule. No pornography, no hate speech. Okay. If you're chanting Nazi slogans in your film and trying to convert people into that, also, we typically don't program activist films. I don't think we've ever programmed an activist film. Once in a while, a film will have a message of hope at the end of how you can support a particular cause, but usually it's not the film that's doing that. It's just the end credits that are doing that. We don't like to become like a political film festival, but we definitely don't want to become a film festival that is promoting pornography and hate speech. And so those are my rules. But my rules beyond that are basically when we're watching a film, does it evoke a reaction? Okay. Sometimes the film is extremely loud and in your face and unsettling and unnerving because the camera motion is such. Or maybe a film is extremely frustrating and to the point where a particular character or a particular dialogue is just extremely hard on your brain. And it creates a reaction. And I am looking for that reaction and I'm looking for the source of that reaction and what the hell it even means. A long time ago, 2002, people walked out in droves when Gaspar Noé's um, Irreversible played at Cannes. People walked out of Texas Chainsaw Massacre in hordes. I don't think that it's a problem that people would want to walk out of a film that we program. Hate it, love it. I always say this: hate it, love it, just don't forget it. That's our programming motto internally. We don't want people to forget an experience. We don't want. I want the film you watch at Pendance to be one of the 10 films you remember at the end of the year. That's our goal every single year. So whether that be for a good reason or a bad reason, Karupi, which is the short film that won Best Canadian Short, I think people are going to remember that film for the rest of their lives. It's an incredible film. Vultures, it's a film I'm going to remember for the rest of my life. I remember so many Pendance films for the rest of my life, and I'm so glad because they've become my teachers. They've become our teachers as a film festival. Terdita is not a film that I'm going to forget anytime soon. Dinner in America is not a film I'm going to forget anytime soon. Lorelei is not. Usually, when you can't forget something, it's usually because it it hit you somewhere inside, and I think that that's good. That's important. And sometimes where it hits you isn't good because it confronts you, and it maybe makes you confront something about yourself. And I think that that's good programming. But people were very upset that we programmed this film because we didn't caution them that they were about to watch AI. And I think that that's fair. That's a really fair criticism. We should have probably put a warning label. I looked it up, and prior to the film festival, I was asking somebody who was deeply embedded in this world of corporations and obligations and whatever, and they said that the work generated by AI, or the artist who or person who creates that, has the obligation to put this work is a work of computer generation or AI or whatever, artificial intelligence. So, barring that, we cannot actually force ourselves to believe or assume that the work was even AI. It felt strongly AI to me. I thought it was, but there are parts of it that actually looked live action. It was blended. It could have been all AI. For all I know, it probably was all AI because I looked up the filmmaker after the festival and I was like, man, he's made like 4 films in like a year. How is that even possible? The films are so complicated and so and this is not to talk ill of it. This is not a moral stance that I'm taking. This is not to talk ill of the filmmaker. I think AI provokes a lot of like, oh my god, clean water, the cooling engines, the decreased ability of human beings to pay attention to things, the losses of jobs for artists. I'm getting away from all of that, and I'm just saying this is not a moral argument against artificial intelligence or the presence of artificial intelligence at film festivals or in our lives. What I'm saying is, curatorially, we're not awarding or letting in competition a film that we suspect, but also we cannot completely assume a film that has never mentioned anywhere in their director bio, in their description, in their on their website that these images are artificial intelligence. They have never mentioned it. And so I had this really big brain idea, and I thought it was a good idea at the time. And I'm now thinking maybe I'm really stupid. I thought, why not pair this film that we don't know if it's AI, but we strongly suspect is artificial intelligence that is trying to evoke this sense of horror and dread, with images of World War II and hold, soldiers astride their noble steeds, walking forward through time on a train. Like, again, the special effects of, or not special effects, but the AI generated effects of rubble and buildings and ruin, this kind of dystopian feeling. Why not contrast that with the real life prosthetics of like practical effects and horror and gushing blood? Because I know how all that shit works. I've worked on horror films. I'm a director. I know how much work goes into the prosthetics and how many hours in the makeup chair to produce one thing, and then you got to fucking reset the whole thing 4 hours. It takes 4 hours. I know the work that indie horror filmmakers take. The work that they do and the time that it takes to produce some of these effects that we see on screen. And the cool thing about Son of Sarah is they've done it exceptionally well. Like, their film feels so incredibly polished on those fronts in terms of the special effects, blood, the hair scene, her pulling out her hair out of her mouth. It's so disturbing. So I was like, these are two films that disturbed me. One was human, one was AI, and two for completely different reasons. And my thought was, stupid me, that why not put them together? Why not show people who are so scared that AI is about to come for their jobs? I want to show you the hollow, empty impact of an AI generated image versus the human generated image. And it's very visceral, very real, very tangible impact. I feel if you put these films side by side, that the difference between the two breathes. But people are not pleased. People are very, very upset. And I am sorry because we spent all weekend working super hard for our artists. Here's a fun fact. In 2020, we paid more for travel and hotel than TIFF did. And we had no money sponsors at all. It was an out-of-pocket loss. And I did it because I believed in that. I have gone to a lot of film festivals as a filmmaker, and I have felt very small and very unimportant at some of them and very disregarded. And I always wanted to make sure that everyone who was selected to Pendance never ever felt the way that I did. but now somebody feels worse than I ever did. And I don't know how to deal with that. So I responded, as sometimes I do respond, head on. And I said what I said, and I said that curatorially this was our intention. And maybe it did not, maybe contrition did not come through in this text, because at the end I get very, very snippy. Probably a misstep. Maybe we need to hire a PR department. I don't know. But man, honestly, the intention was not to promote artificial intelligence. Honestly, the intention was to show how hollow and dystopian and gross it really is. I kind of hate that a lot of people in the city are now going to try to associate Pendance with artificial intelligence, when I genuinely think we might be the most human film festival in this entire city. I think it's weird, and frankly, really disappointing that a lot of people think, or at least a lot of these people who are hearing about Pendance for the first time, think that we're a festival that doesn't care about the artists. There's so much misinformation that has been regurgitated and repeated, and it really reminds me of like how like high school rumors used to start. There's this rumor that a whole bunch of people walked out during the short. That's not true. That's not true. People walked out during the feature, and we were very happy that they did. A horror feature that evokes people to walk out is probably a good thing. But you know what? Hearing the backlash on the short, maybe thought, okay, maybe they walked out because the short was bad and then the feature was frustrating or something. I don't know. Maybe that was a misstep on my part. See, this is why you hire a PR team, because they don't allow you to put your mouth in your foot like that. But this is the truth. And then, we put this little thing on Instagram where we asked people who were actually there, if you were there, to provide like some sort of, verification via DM, like send us your order number, and just like, tell us, did you watch the 5 p.m. screening on Sunday? Did you walk out? Did you hate it? Help us understand why, because we genuinely want to know things. We don't run away from things. We like to confront them head on. The whole controversy. So now there's this whole thing about, oh, they're deleting posts. They're deleting posts. Let me show you something. Okay. This is a post thanking everybody. Here's a post thanking the filmmakers. Okay. Filmmakers, 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 audience, alumni, also filmmakers, team, sponsors. And then this is like my last little closing remarks. Okay. This post is not the right place to have a fucking discussion about artificial intelligence. I don't see why a team that worked for free for months and filmmakers who made their films for years should be subject to a controversy about a 10-minute film that I am the only person who even knew was potentially artificial intelligence and was playing at this film festival. I made a unilateral decision. I don't think everybody else should suffer for a mistake that I made. I don't think that that's fair. And so we hid a couple of the comments because they were getting repetitive. And then we decided to create a post where that conversation could happen, because we're not ducking the fucking conversation. We want the conversation to happen. And then people are like, well, you don't really want the conversation to happen because you're deleting comments. No, we're not deleting comments. No, we're not. We hid one person's comments because they were getting repetitive and, quite frankly, abusive. And I'm not going to take fucking abuse from people. There's a person who said we were fascist, something, and that we should get replaced by ChatGPT. Listen, there is nothing like being a really shitty person who thinks that they have a moral ledge to stand on and then trying to be really shitty to independent artists. Listen, the outrage culture is so stupid. Think about this. Two very critical things, and I'll leave this alone and I'm just gonna get the fuck out of here. Two very critical things. And this is just for anyone who has ever experienced this sort of like call for cancel culture. Listen to this. Two things. If you respect artists as much as you do, why would you derail a post that is doing nothing but celebrating artists? They're named by name. This post is for them. This post is to let them know that people that watch their films appreciated their films. Okay? It is a 3-page long like love letter to the filmmakers who attended this film festival, because I cherish the shit out of them, and then to our audience, and then to our alumni, and then of course to our team. Most of whom are young women in the film industry, you absolute assholes. You want to derail that post because you care so much about artists. You could have had a conversation with us. The other thing, confrontation. Why are people so comfortable having confrontations in the comment section where everyone can see, but they're not comfortable having a confrontation in a cinema where everyone can hear and listen? We were there, could have asked the question. Any person who was offended who didn't walk out, I believe, was there. 90% of the people who are commenting right now were in that audience asking the Q&As. Why did no one say, "Hey, do you believe that festivals should program AI slop, whatever, whatever?" We would have answered it completely in that moment. It never came up. I figured people just kind of understood the point. But apparently nobody did. And nobody asked the question, and we didn't answer the question. Nobody came up to us after and said in person, "Hey, really would have appreciated a heads up on that so we could understand that." No, they waited for this thank you post to derail this conversation because they're very angry about AI. And we are smaller than TIFF and we can't fight it because you know what? 1,000 people can't really take on the brutalist. But 1,000 angry people can absolutely take down an indie film festival. But understand the indie film festival that you're trying to take down and the people behind it are actually artists. We are artists. We are impacted by AI. And this moral objective that you're trying to push on us, this whole like, oh, AI is coming for our jobs. We hate AI. You're gaslighting. We don't promote AI. We don't we don't want AI at our film festival. We don't like AI. We don't participate in AI creation. I have railed against it multiple times on this channel, which is Pensari Basketball, but I've also talked about it multiple times at Pendance. How we need to get away from this shit, how its algorithm is soulless. So I'm not a if look, I'm not a perfect person. I've fucked up enough Q&As for people to know that, but I am consistent. I've said the same thing since 2017 about what we want to do, and everything about Pendance has been filmmaker first. But people want to take that away because of what? A 10-minute film that they didn't understand the reason for it and we didn't execute properly on the placement of it. It's an oversight, for sure. It's a mistake, for sure. We're trying to bury people. So that's the first thing I don't understand is if you care so much about independent artists other than yourselves, then why take that post that was being shared by everybody? These people, these independent artists from other countries, from Britain, from Iran, from wherever, they're sharing these posts with their families back home. This is a sense of pride for them to be included in a selection with a lot of artists that they may they may recognize and love. You want to tarnish that post so that they feel the shame that you want us to feel, that they feel like, oh, I was associated with this film festival and they did this to this filmmaker. Oh, I no longer like that my film was in this film festival. You want them to feel your dread. And that's not artist activism, that's terrorism. And you're gross for that. So that was the first thing. That's why we shut down that comment, not to be, some, like chat Nazis and like kind of shut this conversation down because the conversation we wanted to have in the theater is now happening online. And we're very thankful for it. We want the conversation to happen. The second thing is everyone seems to be, alluding to the fact that like, and again, this is a message. I feel like I'm talking to the same person in 5 different accounts, but I suspect that they are the same people. I've had private DMs with these people. My girlfriend keeps telling me, stop engaging, stop engaging. My team is telling me, stop engaging, stop feeding these people. Everyone has said, stop. They'll move on to somebody else. They'll be upset with somebody else tomorrow. But I want to understand. I do. I want to understand why they're upset. So because, like I don't view failure as a bad thing. I think failure is something to learn from. So I want to understand why the fuck they're upset. And it seems to me that there's a consistent echoing of the sentiment that you put this AI thing next to this human thing, and now this human thing is connected to the AI thing. Now, here's the fun thing. By the time the screening was over, there was maximum 65 people in that theater. 30 to 40 of which, maybe 30, 25, I don't know. I can't count exactly. 25 of which were either directly or indirectly involved with that film, which means 35 max people in the whole world even know that this film ever screened in front of or behind each other. 35 people. And I promise you, looking in the crowd, there were many Pendance lifers that knew exactly what we were doing and had no issue with it. So you had no impact in the world. There was no press there that was like, oh my God, This incredible Canadian horror was paired with this horrible AI thing. Nobody knew about it. Nobody knew about it. We didn't put that the film was AI because the filmmakers did not put that it was AI, and we're not going to assume. We suspected, so we put it out of competition. It was dreadful, so we programmed it. However, by megaphoning this all over socials to try and destroy our festival, you have now cemented this film as being part of that conversation forever. So in an attempt to destroy us, you've actually done the very thing that you think that you're trying to avoid, which is, oh, this director that I really love, his film is being ruined because it was paired with this other film. Do you see my point? It's so stupid. Now, why am I okay with this happening? Why would I write this? I will tell you why I wrote this. Not this, the other one. I wrote this because I don't duck smoke. I am a person who grew up in government housing. I am a person who grew up in the projects. I'm a person who has watched my mother spend her last $5. I'm a person who has buried both my parents before I was 20 years old. You are not going to scare me with your words, okay? But what I wanted for this festival to be is a place for confrontation and for conversations to happen. I didn't want this festival to become some sort of tepid, afraid to handle any difficult thing. No, like we'll handle the conversations because dialogue is good, monologue is bad. And I think that's why a lot of European filmmakers love Pendance. You ask some of the best European filmmakers what is their favorite Toronto Film Festival, they won't say TIFF. I'll guarantee it. They'll say Pendance, the one that sticks closest to their heart. You go ask filmmakers in Iran, which film festival in this city do you trust to most authentically champion your work? We don't win any quota points, no diversity points. But I looked up at the stage and I think we just, again, by osmosis, without any quotas, without any deliberate planning, probably just had the most diverse representation of on-screen and director talent on stage that any festival has had in this city, other than maybe Real World, that is deliberately going for diversity. What are you tearing down? You're tearing down an independently funded small film festival in its ninth year that's just trying to get back on its feet after the pandemic. You want everyone to hate this thing because you're mad at AI. The fuck did we steal water to screen that film? No, we screened the film because we want to confront this topic and have the conversation. People don't understand that. And this is where I think maybe this is the fact that I'm not from here. I'm not from Canada. I'm not from Toronto. And this part of Toronto has never sat right with me. I'm from a part of the world where we like to have confrontations about things. We're very direct, we're very blunt. Whether we're talking Serbia, whether we're talking New York, the places where I grew up, we wanted to have conversations. We wanted to confront things. If something's wrong, we don't pussyfoot around it. We don't say, no, it's all good. No, we say, my stomach hurts. My stomach hurts. Okay? Like this passive bullshit ain't for me. And I love this city and I love this country for a lot of reasons. But this is one thing I cannot stand, which is the political altar worshiping bullshit of it. It's inconsistent, it's unartistic, it's unintelligent, it's incredibly hypocritical. It's usually just an excuse for really, really shitty people to act like really shitty people because you're wearing a red hat, so I get to throw things at you, or you don't support my cause, so I get to throw things at you. See, that's the thing. Activists can be really good people. Rob Stewart was a really good person. Rob Stewart was an activist. He was a shark life activist. Rob, when he was a shark activist, wasn't a complete dick. He was a really good person. A lot of activists, however, under the guise of activism, are just really shitty people. And I got to meet a lot of those shitty people in the comment section this past week. They're predictably hurt. They believe we owe them an apology. We don't owe them an apology. We owed the director an apology, and we issued him one. We were sorry, very sorry that it was not mentioned to him that, there would be an AI film so that he could inform his cast and crew, a lot of whom are special effects people, makeup people, cinematography, camera people who would be drastically impacted by AI. And there's a trauma factor of seeing AI being played in front of your film that I can understand and empathize with because I am a human being and I am an artist. However, trying to take this beyond what it was and turn it into Pendance is now a programming AI slop and Pendance doesn't care about artists is an absolute disservice to the work that we have put in for the last 9 years, to the accommodations that we have offered filmmakers, to the fairness. And I'll tell you a story. We didn't think that this filmmaker was going to show up to the screening. We didn't find out until maybe 5, 6 days before the screening that he was definitively going to show up. And tickets were not selling. I'll be honest. 5 o'clock horror film right before the gala. It was a tough spot, and we knew it. This screens basically empty every single year. 5 p.m. before the gala every year is like a dead spot. We do not expect to have a full crowd at that screening. But the second we found out the director and the actress and the cinematographer, who we respect tremendously, were coming to this screening, we put every fucking thing in our hearts and minds and started making phone calls. We started, messaging people about like collaborations. We sent volunteers to the corner of Young and Carlton. Sorry, Young and Church? No, Young and College with tickets, handing out tickets. Some of you may have gotten an offer for free tickets from Nickel 9 for Son of Sarah. And that was our effort to pack the theater because we wanted them to have a really, really good. Why else would we do that? We didn't want a full screening. If they weren't going to be there, we didn't necessarily want like a completely packed screening. I mean, for starters, we wanted to be at the gala. Like that was our event. This film, it was programmed at 5 o'clock because it was a completely last minute thing. We lost one film that was supposed to be in that slot because of Canadian distribution. Then we lost a second film because it was supposed to be in Canadian distribution. We ended up reaching out for this film because we thought it was really cool to promote, and have a Canadian horror film. But that being said, we were not going to aggressively push this film until we found out the director and the actress were coming. And this was going to be their final screening. And again, as an empathetic filmmaker, we went out of our way for an entire week to push the shit out of this. We promoted this film above our other films, and it wasn't a Toronto premiere. It had screened at Blood in the Snow. So I think to myself, and I'm just like, man, to put all that work in, we didn't charge them tickets for their screening, by the way. Just so we're clear on that, just to be 100% transparent. We sent them a message. Boom. Any tickets you want, free of charge. Like cast, crew, you let us know how many do you need for the gala. We paid for the gala. Every head that came into the gala, free food, free drinks. That's a huge investment on our part. For a film we're already paying for a film we're giving out free tickets for, that is accommodation on accommodation on accommodation without a cent demanded, without a cent earned, all on our own dollar, all on our own time. And now to have the cast and crew of that film trying to rip us apart because we put an AI film, that's what kind of hurt the most. Because any person, even involved with that film, because again, if you were involved in another film, you know this even better. But even the people involved in that film should know that they were, at least we tried to care for their film. So my 40-minute rant is over. I guess I needed to vent into a public space where I felt that hopefully you understand that this weekend was a little bit bittersweet for me because of this. But it doesn't take away from the people that I met. It really doesn't. I'm not complaining. Dude, this weekend was awesome. Met incredible people. People stayed at after parties until 2 a.m., 3 a.m. I stayed at after parties until 3 a.m. I'm a guy who barely leaves my house. Let's be real. So for me, like this was a social charge around creative people, around beautiful people, great people. And I'm not going to let one fucking event make it, Nolan Bambury said, I feel like I'm missing out. Rob, as soon as I can purchase tickets to Pendance next year, I'll get them for me and my girlfriend. Please let me know as soon as they go up for next year. Bro, I appreciate you, man. And we will, listen, like to those of you who already know, my 10X plan is on. It's not getting derailed by this bullshit. And my view on this, I'm going to tell you what. My view on this is this. We may not have handled the PR right. We may not have handled the screening right. We did it from the heart. And everything, with good intentions is not always to good results. I get all of that. But that being said, that post has been shared like a million times. Like that's a lie. It's not a million times, but it's been shared a lot. It has probably more engagement and more traction than any post in our entire Instagram history, which kind of gives you this idea that negativity really sells. I thought to myself multiple times, imagine if the people who are shitting on us and sharing this post about the AI film being screened before their friend's film, imagine if those people had cared enough to actually share the trailer or share the ticket link. We wouldn't have had to go to the corner of, you know, College and Young trying to hand tickets out to random people and tell people about Son of Sarah Volume 1. We wouldn't have needed to do that. I really pride myself on, you know, authorship and freedom of speech. I am an insanely like unfiltered human being. Any person who knows me will tell you, I will tell you exactly what I'm feeling at all times. I am not a person who minces my words. If I think you look stupid in that hat, I'm going to tell you look stupid in that hat. If the dress makes you look fat, I'm going to tell you the dress makes you look fat. And if you just are fat and you say, does the dress make me look fat? I don't even have the filter on my brain to say, you know, the dress does make you look fat. I'll say any dress would make you look fat. That's just kind of who I am. And I'm cool with it. I'm good with it. I'm going to make sure that I find the people in the world that really value that level of honesty and authenticity in a human being, as I have here. I was listening to a video on branding, and they said that a lot of brands don't connect with people because people don't connect with robots. Interestingly enough, a lot of the AI slop out there is replacing things that are made by humans who think like robots. Do you know why I'm not worried about Pensari basketball being replaced by AI? Do you really want to know? I'll tell you why. Because a robot can never do what I do. It can't. It can sound exactly like me, but it cannot mimic the authenticity that I am able to bring to this podcast. There's something deeply human about me, and that is because I am in touch with my humanity. However, not all humans are in touch with their humanity. There are reels that I watch on TikTok where, honestly, if you told me an AI bot put it together, I believe you, because a lot of people in this world, unfortunately, are striving to mimic, copy, replicate, and reproduce. That is their entire modus operandi. When they say, oh, I want a house to look how I want it to look, what are they really looking at? They're looking at a fucking IKEA catalog. That person will be replaced by AI. When someone says, oh, I want this incredible shot of this skyline to look like this shot from Woody Allen's, okay, well, you can be replaced by AI. But a person who is pulling directly from their own personal experiences to create films, like the many filmmakers that we selected at Pendance this year, most of the filmmakers that we selected at Pendance this year made deeply, deeply honest and connected films. Those people are not going to be replaced by AI because the robot does not have a soul. And people who are in touch with their soul, I don't believe will ever be replaced by AI. So there you go. Thank you. This is the best comment. Thank you so much. Jared K. Ose, I'm going to leave it on your words, not mine. AI has no soul. If you're doing something you were born to do, you cannot be replaced. I 100%, 100% agree with this. Bingo. And I'm going to share something with you. Can I tell you something that I learned this weekend? So, to those of you who attended, you know that I messed up so much on stage, dude. Oh my God. I forgot names. I forgot places. I told y'all, I forgot everything. And every single time I went up there, it was either the mic wasn't on, the mic wasn't loud enough, and someone's like, can't hear you, Rob. And I'm like the back row. Look, we were introducing Canadiana on opening night, and they're like, can't hear you, Rob. And I was like, can you hear me now? And I'm trying not to scream because I know there's kids in the crowd, and I want to just say fuck. Anyways, here's something that I learned this weekend. Two things, two deeply important things. And I want to impart these to you, and then I just want to move on because you probably know them, but I just want to remind you just in case you don't remember. Number one, and this is very important. When you mess up, you have two choices. You can either go in or you can go out. Go out. Okay? When you go in, that means you go into your own head and you start internalizing the mess up. Like, oh, I'm screwing up. I'm messing up. I'm messing up. And then you start to get frustrated. And then you start making awkward comments like, oh, I can never get this right. Oh my God, I'm so bad at public speaking. Blah, 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 blah. Right? That makes it awkward for everybody. Now we're just knowing that you're not prepared and you just sound very weird. And that's not pleasant to listen to. Nobody wants to listen to that. So go the other way. So here's an example of what I did. So I did a horrible job of introducing the film in question. Absolutely awful job. I went up there, I didn't even know what I was saying, I don't know what planet I was on. All I know is I was really, really tired. Like, I hadn't slept more than 2 hours to 3 hours in weeks, and I was running on fumes. Like, I told this story all weekend. I asked people, "Where's my hat?" And they're like, "It's on your head." I asked people like, someone asked me like, "Oh, hi, my name is Jeff. What's your name?" And I was like, "My name is," and they're like, "You don't know your own name?" I'm like, "It's been that kind of day, dude." Like, that's how I felt. Like, I couldn't remember names of films. I had to, like, look up things, like, 85 times. I went to the theater staff and, um, I said, "How long until the film is done playing?" And they said 45 minutes. And here's the fucking crazy thing. I went back into the room, completely forgot that I had asked, and I went back into the theater staff, and I was like, how long until the film is done playing?" And they said, 44 minutes. "Robert, are you okay? Do you need a coffee? We can't do this 45 times for the next 45 minutes, bro." So I thought it was funny, but honestly, I just decided to make fun of myself, and here's how I did it. So I did a terrible job introducing the final film, and I did obviously completely forgot to mention that it was AI or anything like that, the short. And so, just my intros all weekend were terrible. Like, I forgot to introduce names of filmmakers. It was just very, very unprofessional and very stupid, and it's something we got to fix next year about hiring an MC. My point is, I went in to introduce the Q&A, again, not realizing that everyone in the audience pretty much hated us at that point, but just went in and said, "Hey, uh, yeah, we fired. I'm the twin brother of the guy who did the introduction. Yeah, we fired that guy for screwing up." And then everyone was able to laugh a little bit, and that kind of made it okay. So again, there are many times where you just laugh at yourself, and it just makes everything okay. You know, even as I was walking out of the intro, I like yelled out, "Is this the last one I have to do? Okay, good." As if like no one could hear me. And people just laughed. And I just thought, making fun of yourself makes it okay. The second thing is everything that I did on stage was honest. Every word I said was from the heart. I never lie, but I especially would never lie on a Pendance stage. It's like a temple for me. It's like God's place, like it's cinema, man. And for me, that place becomes such a sanctuary, that stage. When we were at the Regent or TIFF Bell Lightbox, it was an official stage. At the Carlton, it's just like a sunken, place where people stand on a carpet. But whatever it is in front of the audience, and it is in the service of cinema at Pendance, and it is a weirdly like sacred place, and no one can lie when they're up there. And what's kind of cool is there's this old quote that when you tell people the truth, you make it their problem, right? Give me a W if you've heard that before. When you tell people the truth, you make it their problem. I have a fresh perspective on that. This I don't really think it's like anyone's problem. I think when you tell people the truth, you allow them to reciprocate the truth. People got up in front of that audience, filmmakers, actors, directors, producers, and were so, I mean, not all, but most were so authentic and so honest. And someone came up to me after and said, "It's hard to lie after you do what you do. It's hard to go up there and put on an act when the festival director is screwing up with the mic and forgetting to turn things off and laughing at himself and just being so informal, but also so real. It just feels like that would be weird and it would be off brand. You're setting a stage." See, when a festival director comes out all prim and proper and says, "I would like to introduce the next thing," and it's so clear that he's putting on an accent and it's all constructed and it's all rehearsed and he's reading off a piece of paper, then other people feel a need to follow that performance with a performance of their own. But when a festival director is able to go up there and just be honest and vulnerable and forget his words and just be real, then people go up there and they're real too. And I think that that's really freeing, man. To look, as a filmmaker, watching your work is the most horrifying thing in the world. Like, honestly, with a live audience, you want them to laugh at all the funny bits. You want them to be scared about all the scared things. It's really freaky. Sitting there in the audience is nerve wracking. Going up and then answering questions, you don't know where the questions are coming from. You hear that Pendance has this super smart audience that asks all these deep ass questions. It's scary. It's really scary. They'll ask you a question like, "Did you not have enough time to finish that scene? And now you have to answer why that scene looks incomplete. Did you not catch that boom shadow? Like, now you have to answer why the film that's been locked for a year and has screened in cinemas 45 times has a boom shadow that you didn't catch." You're naked. You're naked up there. You're scared and you're naked. And To be up there and to be yourself in front of 150 people is so life changing. It's life changing. And many, many people have told me that Pendance has changed their life. I hope that people had their lives changed by Pendance this year. And I will not let one really, really sour moment ruin what was otherwise an incredible weekend. So, yeah, that's just how I feel. Karen Hall said, in my honest opinion, that's what makes Pensar basketball special, your unwavering commitment to honesty. Thank you. Yeah. I'm messy. I'm messy. You know what's not messy? Artificial intelligence, unless we're talking about for the environment. Human beings are defined by their mistakes, not by their imperfections. Human beings are defined by their wrinkles and their flaws, and embracing those flaws is deeply empowering. Everybody has something about themselves that they do not want people to notice. You know, for me, it's my scar. I don't want people to notice my scar, so I wear my hat super low. One day I won't wear my hat super low, and I know I'll be free of this. Do you know why I hate people asking me about the scar? Because it's the first thing they see when they see my face, and I always assume that they think that I'm a violent person, and I'm not a violent person. I just had a vase that fell on my head, and I got 39 stitches. I felt like I had to leave the finance world because I had this unsightly scar across my face, but I also don't believe in getting plastic surgery, so I didn't want to get reconstructive or laser surgery on my face. I just wanted the scar to go away naturally and fade, and it has faded, but people still notice it, and I wear the hat. You know, it's something I don't want people to notice about me. Everyone has that. But you know what this scar is? It's a reminder that I'm human, that I bleed, that, I had blood gushing out of my head, that I am a human being that had a really, really shit morning one day that changed the course of my life for the better. Without that vase falling on my head, I don't become a filmmaker. Without becoming a filmmaker, I don't become a director at Pendance. Without becoming a director at Pendance, I don't become a podcaster. All of these things led one into the other, into the other. Think about it. How do I become a filmmaker? How do I abandon the finance world and leave the cushy corporate life and just decide to float into fucking filmmaking with no education in filmmaking and no idea what I'm doing and just say, I can pick up a camera and I can do it like a crazy person? Because this happened. And I always wanted to be a filmmaker and I was always a writer. And I just thought to myself, this is a good place to go. I'm going to do that. And so I went and bought a camera. And then 2 years later, I went to film festivals for 2 years. I wrote down an entire journal of all the things I didn't want, and we created Pendance out of those things that we never got that we wanted. And then 3 years later, 2 years later, I had a brain tumor, which forced me to do video conferencing a little bit. And then Pendance went virtual, which is really interesting because that forced us to get StreamYard. And StreamYard forced me to meet people virtually. And then I did this thing called Hello October or Hello September, where I arranged 1-hour meetings with random strangers for an entire month. Some of them were friends, some of them were people I'd never talked to, whatever. And just 1-hour teleconferences during the pandemic just to check on people and see how they were doing and give people a little bit of human perspective from a stranger that they weren't going to meet. And all of that made me comfortable enough to get on a streaming platform like a really small podcast like To The Point, or a slightly bigger podcast like Basketball Zone, which led me to applying for a really big Raptors podcast, which led them to trying to underpay me, which led me to say, fuck that, I'll just start Pensar Basketball, which led me to being able to go to Player's Choice because they watched one of my videos and said, this guy's cool. We want to bring him on. My life has changed because of this scar. It's a chain of events for sure. But if you think about life deeply enough, you'll realize very many things in your life that you hate led to a lot of things that you love. That plane that you missed might be the reason you meet your fiance. That tumor that you discovered might be the reason you quit smoking. I don't know. And you know what? That's why whenever things go bad, and this is an example of something going really bad, I always rejoice because I remember the thing that Randy Pausch said once a long time ago. When things are going bad, rejoice because you're probably learning a lot. And for me personally, learning a lot feels good. I'll talk to y'all later. Thanks for putting up with another 50 minutes on Pendance. I promise this is the last one. We're back to full basketball talk from this point on. No more Pendance talk. Until next year, peace.